It's the Last Stand Podcast. And here's your host, Brian Custer.
That's right. It is the Last Stand. I am Brian Custer. We bring you the biggest names in sports, entertainment. And I tell you what, we got a big one here. And he comes from the sport of football, the NFL. Six-time Pro Bowler, spent 15 years in the NFL. Third in receiving yards. He's a Hall of Famer. Folks, get your popcorn ready. He's none other than Terrell Owens. Okay, so you go to Dallas, man, 2006. You signed with the Cowboys, and that's where Get Your Popcorn Ready originated, with the Dallas Cowboys.
Get Your Popcorn Ready came, that originated in San Francisco.
Really?
It just resurfaced. It happened in the game when I was with the Niners, and we played the Atlanta Falcons. And I hadn't caught any balls in the first half, and I was heated, and I was open. I was taking advantage of again this factored into the tension and the tumultuous relationship with Steve Mariucci. Here I am, the number one receiver for our team, and I go a whole half without any catches. And you're like, come on, bro, you serious? So I go a whole half without any catches, and George Stewart, who was my receiver coach at the time, one of the best coaches, one of the best 2 or 3 receiver coaches that I've had in my career. But he knew I was hot. He came to me right after halftime, and I was sitting there. We hadn't got I think the ball hadn't been kicked off yet, and so I was sitting down. And so he came over. He said they were going to get me the ball or what have you. And so he walked off, and then I said, "Hey, Stu." He said, "What's up, big dog?" He said, I just want to know if you got your popcorn ready. He goes, "What?" I said, "Get your popcorn ready, because it's about to be a show." And he said, "Boy, you crazy." And so after that, hey, the rest is history. I ended up scoring 3 touchdowns, 2 in regulation, and a walk-off touchdown in overtime to win the game. So that was just part of who I was, and really me knowing the ability that I had to be a game changer, to be a game breaker, the confidence that I had to know that, it didn't matter who was on me. If I'm involved in the offense the right way, great things happen. And that was just part of my makeup, man. I wanted to entertain. I realized the ability that I possessed, learning everything that I could while Jerry was there, but being the best version of myself. And it was frustrating knowing that, number one, I'm in Atlanta. We're playing in Atlanta, which was my off-season home. So I got a bunch of family there. I got friends, in all of Atlanta. You got everybody in Atlanta that's hot in Atlanta. Jermaine Dupri, Jagged Edge. I mean, everybody amongst friends. And you think about some of the guys that live in Atlanta. So this was a time for me. I was kind of like at home. So I wanted to show out, and I wanted to show out often. And so it was just frustrating not being involved early on in the offense. But, like I said, I realized that football is a form of entertainment. For me to do the touchdown celebrations and come up with all those creative dances that I did, those celebrations, my motivation was to get in the end zone. I mean, I couldn't do those touchdowns celebrations without the touchdown. So that was extra and added motivation for me to get 6.
So you're in Dallas, and look, selfishly for me, because I've always been a Cowboys fan in my life, I couldn't stand T.O. All of a sudden you come to Dallas, I'm like, okay, we got T.O. Let's go. Let's get it. So when you look back on the Cowboys days, what comes to mind?
I think just a career incomplete. I played 3 seasons there. Had just signed an extension for 4 years. And then I go into the off season, talk to Jerry Jones after that 3rd season. And the first year we had Wade Phillips as the head coach. The last 2 years was Jason Garrett. The first year we did, I think we went 13-3, lost in the playoffs. And then we lost again, got into the playoffs. I think it may have been my last year. Actually, no. My first year was Wade Phillips. Second year was Bill Parcells, I
Bill
think.
Parcells.
And, right. And then it was Jason Garrett.
Mm-hmm.
Jason Garrett, I think, served as an offensive coordinator, I think, those last two years or so. And then, going into the offseason, Jerry, called me and asked me, like, what do we need to do to get over the hump? Obviously, I wanted to be part of a team of getting that I guess that's elusive sixth championship that they've been looking for. And I basically kind of just gave him, my honest assessment on what we needed to do. And I felt honored, to be honest, because I felt like, because I've never had an owner call me and ask me, kind of like makings of giving my input on the team and what we need to do to improve. So I just, as being the number one guy, I felt like as a leader in the locker room, he's asking me. I gave him my assessment, and so we went into the offseason, and I thought I didn't think much of it. I had a 4-year extension, and then later on that offseason, I think it may have been in March or what have you, he comes to Florida for a meeting call. He calls my agent up, and we go meet, and then that's when he told me that they were going to part ways with me. So, again, I just felt like obviously –
What changed?
I have no idea. I think, there's been speculation, and I think some of the same things that went on with Dez Bryant. You had a clique of guys that, that were in cahoots with each other, which is unfortunate. When you talk, like I said, systemic racism, bro, it comes in all forms. And it's just not just, like I said, nobody just makes up stuff and things just happen. I think everybody saw the pattern in which how I was treated, how I got up out of there. Dez Bryant was going through some of the same things. And he mentioned some of the same stuff that I had mentioned. When you talk about Jason Witten, Jason Garrett, and Tony Romo, those guys in cahoots, they were kind of in control and, with kind of like the inner workings and dealings of the team. So, if they can, posse up and talk, whisper pods and get somebody up out of there, they had the power to do that. And especially when you think about a quarterback, if they feel like, just like the same situation I felt like I was in Philly, the quarterback is just as valuable as a head coach. And if he's not comfortable or he doesn't want a certain guy around, he can make that known, and management can make that happen. Even when I left, I heard some things about some of the things that Tony Romo was saying and doing, and how, so it wasn't surprising, but I get it, and it is what it is. I just hate that my career didn't extend. I honestly thought I was going to retire in a Cowboy uniform, but like I told you earlier, no matter what uniform I'm playing in, my skill set my ability is not going to change. I left there, went to Buffalo, balled out considerably, considering the circumstances that I was under. Left Buffalo only because they had a head coaching change. He wanted to go in a different direction, use the younger guys more. I left Buffalo, went to Cincinnati, played with Chad. Chad has been there with Carson Palmer for like 9 or 10 years. My age came into play. They had Antonio Bryant, a receiver. We both went in during the free agency period. They went with the younger Antonio Bryant. He didn't make it through training camp. They ended up calling me back. I go into training camp for only about a month with the Cincinnati Bengals. To fast forward throughout the course of that season, I think I had like right 9 or 10 touchdowns, or it could have been more. But I outplayed Chad, and that's me coming in just playing, limited training camp time. I had a meniscus tear late in the season. I think I was about 17 yards or so shy of 1,000 yards. But it just shows you, number one, the type of person and ability that I possess. And like I said, the only thing that changed was the uniform. My ability stayed the same.
So when you came to Dallas, you had obviously Hall of Fame coach there in Bill Parcells. And I remember that he always referred to you as the player. He would never say your name. And it was reported that obviously Jerry Jones wanted you very much. He wasn't very high on that. Did that bother you?
No, not at all. I mean, as you saw by my play, bro, I was raised by a strong black woman and my grandmother and my mom. bro, I didn't allow, and I don't allow stuff like that. If you don't like me, then so be it. That's a
Did you get
personal
that
problem.
feeling from Coach Parcells? Did you get that feeling?
For somebody not to refer you by your name and refer to you as a player, that for me, it may be a stretch. That's almost like, somebody calling you a boy. You know what I mean? You're in a head coaching position and you don't want to address me by my name. That's disrespectful. Again, like I said, if I would have, basically addressed him outside of either coach or whatever, I'm sure the media would have saw that as some sort of disrespect and made a big stink out of it. But it's funny how media make stories out of what they want to make. You know what I mean? So like I said, at the end of the day, I didn't realize it till later on, and once I start hearing about it, that he wasn't really high on me. I wasn't one of his guys. Keyshawn was there. They actually replaced me for Keyshawn. So obviously we're two different receivers. I think if you look at the stats, we know who the better receiver is between the two. I think Keyshawn, he was a little bitter because they brought me in and shipped him out. Again, those are personal things. I had nothing to do with that. If you want to get mad at somebody, get mad at management. He went into the booth at ESPN, said some critical things, overcritical about some of my play and things that happened there in Dallas as a result of. But bro, I don't allow those things to manifest. Number one, because I realize the responsibility that I have as a number one receiver. Number one, we have team goals, we have personal goals, and if I allow those things to fester, then it's gonna basically be I'm not gonna be as productive as I should be. So I stayed focused, realized some of the things that my grandmother told me and taught me. Just be faithful, be strong, be who you are. Don't worry about it. People are gonna talk about you, whether it's good or bad. But that doesn't define you. And so I live by that. I played by that. And that's how that's how I live my life, bro. That's how I played football.
And I remember when you guys lost to the Giants, and that was the year where everyone thought the Cowboys were going to win the Super Bowl.
We should have. Yeah, no doubt.
You lose the Giants, and afterwards there's the infamous press conference where you're talking after the game, the sunglasses, you're crying, you're saying, Tony Romo, that's my quarterback. First of all, how much flack did you get from your boys after that? And number two, when you look back at it now, do you like, man, I was sitting there taking up for this cat and he did me like that.
Yeah, I look back and I can probably have, second thoughts about it. But again, that's just who I was. If I was in that situation, I'm pretty sure I'd do it again. But understanding, how things played out and how I feel like he didn't take up for me and go to bat for me. It just shows you what type of person he is. It just shows you how sometimes people can get carried away at their positions and the power that they have. I don't regret it by any means because I know I came from a genuine, authentic place. As I told you, regardless of what the media portrayal or the perception is about me, because people have heard things about what happened or what went on in the locker room, all these things are hearsay. As Marcus Spears and some of my other teammates have come out and said, there was no problems there in Dallas. I was the ultimate consummate pro. I went in, I worked hard, I practiced hard, and that was my practice habits, and what my plan was a result of how I approached practice. So that was just who I was, bro. Like I said, I don't take it back. I'm not going to take it back. I don't regret it. But that's just who I was. When you're in that locker room, you play for one another. We lose together. We win together. But that's just who I was and who I thought Tony was for me. I thought he was a brother. You know what I mean? He was my teammate. So I took up for him because the media was giving him a hard time. So it's unfortunate that it wasn't reciprocated. But like I said, at the end of the day, that's he has to live with that.
The one incident in Dallas that I kind of want you to clarify for me, because again, I'm close to Dallas. I lived there. It's been my second home. That year, after the first year you were there, there was a time where you had someone gotten injured and you were taking pain medication. In the police report, it said that you tried to hurt yourself and tried to commit suicide. you had a public relations person who said, no, hey, look, he just took too many.
Yeah, I think we addressed it.
Considering mental health is so serious,
Right,
were you at a place at that point, Terrell, that you were trying to hurt yourself?
No. As we discussed and we tried to clarify, and as best we could. Like I said, it was a matter of me taking supplements and being mixed with something else, and that was it. So we addressed it. We moved on from it. There's never ever been any issue or anything to that degree, to that extent. So it's a non-issue for anybody that wants to bring it up. But yeah, I'm very aware of mental health and how, again, football can take a toll on any of us. I think if you played the game long enough, or if you've lived long enough, we're all going to have days where there's going to be some dark days, for us. I've been one of those guys, not of this particular incident, that has had those moments where, sometimes, you wish things were the other way around, or what have you. So I'm no different than any of these other guys that have addressed and come out and been forthcoming and transparent about these issues. But yeah, mental health is a serious issue. We're all human. I know a lot of fans and people that look at us as superheroes and invincible. When we go through things, we address and we try to identify with some of our issues and problems, whatever they may be. I'm sure it varies with each individual. We try to I think guys are trying to bring forth and bring some awareness that we're humans just like everybody else, regardless of how much money we make, what team we play on, or who we play with, or what have you. We are humans and we deal with real life issues as well.
I know I would certainly get criticized if I didn't ask you this question. When you look at your career, and for most of the teams, it seems like, the ending was bad, and it seemed like there was some kind of, what can I say? You had an issue with the quarterback, whether it be a Garcia, whether it be a McNabb, whether it be a Romo. Does Terrell, do you have any regrets, or do you look back and say, well, maybe I should have done this one differently?
Well, I've had interviews where I've been asked the same questions, and I've addressed that, and I've said, like, looking back on some of the encounters, I wish I could have either done some things differently, answered some things differently. But as far as regret, that's a strong word. I don't regret anything. I played the game to the highest level that I could play at. I played the best that I could play. I feel like I was the best version of who I became, especially when people know me as a receiver. They know those two initials, T.O. But I'm no different than the next man. We all, have our trials and tribulations. There's growth that comes out of living life if you live long enough. And I've even said, if I could go back and change some things, then there'll be a few things that I would do differently. But a lot of how people perceive me based on how the media portrayed me is perception, is hearsay. I think, like I said, I mentioned with some of my teammates, regardless of how what has been reported about me is storylines based on commentators, analysts, or what have you. There's no facts to that. There's no truth to that. Skip Bayless created stories coming out of San Francisco, and then once you get that target on your back, the slightest little thing you're going to be condemned for it. It's just like somebody being a criminal. Once you do one crime, and you start accumulating, then you're going to be looked at as a criminal, no matter what that crime is. Like I said, it could be petty or whatever the case may be, but somebody's going to look at you as a criminal overall. You still did something. So I'm very aware of that. But bro, I know who I am at heart. I know I'm a good person. I know I was a good teammate on every team that I played with. It's unfortunate that some guys are a bit sensitive. Speaking of some of the quarterbacks, but if you're going to be sensitive, then football isn't for you. And if you want to try to make me out to be the bad guy because it's easy, because I've had some things happen, or that's how people are going to perceive me, then oh well, I can't change that, and I didn't let it bother me. I still went out there and played the best of my ability, because I realized if I went out and played poorly based on whatever situation or circumstance that was surrounding me at that time, if I went out and played poorly, that was only going to validate everything that they were saying. So for me, I knew what was at stake. Like I said, these are things that my grandmother kind of raised me, and instilled in me growing up, and I knew it in the back of my head, in the back of my mind. So I didn't allow all those things that were being said that weren't true, that weren't factual. There were guys that were basically trying to do a job. They honestly didn't have no business, and basically their opinions. Their opinions is not my truth. They're not facts for me.
Mm. You mentioned some of this. You had some epic, man, touchdown celebrations, bro. I mean, some epic touchdown celebrations. Look, you ran to the middle of the star at Texas Stadium. You pulled out the Sharpie. Was there any where you said, ooh, when you look back, was like, oh, boy, maybe I went a little too far on this one? Or which out of all the celebrations were you most proud of? Where you were like, yeah, that one was pretty creative?
No, I think that factored into the perception and the media portrayal of me, because all the touchdown celebrations that I did, none were deemed, in my mind, there was nothing in the collective bargaining agreement, anything with conduct, by a player at that time, that would have deemed inappropriate. So I was just basically having fun. Just because you haven't seen it before, just because maybe it may have been a little bit too creative, that doesn't mean it was wrong. You look at when I was doing those celebrations, and then they tried to stop all the celebrations some years after. Look how that fared out. Everything that I was criticized for is now being embraced. And you think about the touchdown celebration, the fans wanted it. They missed it. So all these rules that were implemented to take away the fun away from the game was based on how people portrayed me as an individual, as a football player. And a lot of these analysts, like I said, they judged me based on who they thought I was, based on hearsay. Bro, that's just the world we live in, bro. I was well aware of a lot of this stuff, because that's how my grandmother was raised in the South. You think about, what she had to go through, what our ancestors, her family had to go through. She went through it all. And so, like I said, I trust me, I garnered her strength, her perseverance, her teaching me and telling me that, people are going to talk about you, good, bad, and indifferent, whatever the case may be. Just always be truthful and know that you're doing the right thing. And that's how I play, and that's how I live my life, bro. At the end of the day, like I said, I've never been in any off the field issues, no problems. If I was such a bad person that the world thinks that I am, you would think that I've been out of the league, almost 10 years now. You would think that I would already have had some issues or some problems. That hasn't happened. That's because I was raised the right way. I know right from wrong. I'm a good person. I'm a good person at heart. I'm a human being. I'm not without fault. I'm not without transgressions. So that should sum it up in a nutshell.
How do you stay in shape? It's one thing to be in shape, T.O. It's another thing to be in T.O. shape. And guys like us in the fourth level, bro, how do you stay ripped like that? Because there was video of you running with Kareem Hunt, and you ran a 4.40.
Oh, Tyreek Hill?
Yeah, Tyreek Hill. A 4.4. How do you stay in shape, T.O.?
Again, it's based on people that have come in my life that basically helped me along the way to become the receiver that I did, notably and namely my personal trainer, Buddy Prim, out of Atlanta. Obviously, lifting weights wasn't an issue, but he taught me about body maintenance. He taught me about nutrition. He taught me how to be able to eat to where I'm able to optimize my performance. Everybody lifts weights. You're going to do things in the off season. You're going to practice. You're going to try to perfect your craft, but it goes a lot more goes into it than just going to the gym or going on the football field, actually doing the physical stuff. Things like body maintenance. When you talk about cutting edge things to really optimize your performance, nutrition wise, massage, deep tissue work. These are things that enable you to be able to recover when you have injury, especially playing a sport that's as physical as football. You look at the number of injuries, major injuries. I didn't really have any major injuries throughout the course of my career. And even the ones that seemed major, I was able to bounce back from. And obviously a lot of that was due largely to how I took care of my body from a body maintenance standpoint, having massage therapists, chiropractors, and then, like I said, nutrition played a big part. When you think about being able to take supplements, really, even if there's injuries and you're taking medication, that medication in which you're taking, you're able to, and even supplements, you're able to digest and absorb the nutrients in which, your body needs in order to perform. And so I think I was kind of receptive to a lot of that my trainer kind of shared with me. And after my first year or so being working out and training under him, I saw the results of that, and I became fascinated with the process. It really became a relentless pursuit of greatness once I realized what I could do, and then the components that added and that enhanced my athletic ability. And most of that, like I said, is just it's a tribute to what I call my 3Ds. When you talk about being a prototype, everybody is a prototype. I have a clothing line called Prototype 81. That's obviously the 81 is significant to the jersey number that I wore. But I started to think, deeply about like who I was and what I wanted to do in the football field and who I wanted to be. I couldn't be Jerry Rice. I understood, when I had Steve Young as a quarterback, and then after that, I had a number of quarterbacks after that. I had Elvis Gerbach, I had Tim Rattay, I had Jeff Garcia. These are guys that, like I said, I needed to be able to do the things that to do on the football field. But when you think about prototype, everybody's a prototype. The definition of prototype is the basis on which something is made or formed. I realized coming out of UT Chattanooga, I wasn't where I needed to be. I wanted to be one of the best receivers in the game. Once I got a glimpse of Jerry Rice and I saw J.J. Stokes, I saw what the West Coast offense was predicated on. There was time and precision. I saw the makeup in which that offense ran in the West Coast offense. I wanted to be something special. I wanted to be a better version of who I was when I got drafted. You've heard Kobe say that, be the best version of yourself. I'm a prototype, the basis on which something is made or formed. I wanted to make myself something special. And that was based on how when I look back on my career, how I became a Hall of Famer. And that's my 3Ds: desire, dedication, and discipline. I had a desire to be one of the best. Once I saw highlights, I saw the coaching of a Bill Walsh. I had George Seifert. I saw Jerry Rice up close. I saw highlights of John Taylor, the receivers that played in that offense. I started to witness some of the great receivers around the league. I wanted to be just like that, but I had the best barometer and bar of success in Jerry Rice. I wanted to be him, but I realized I couldn't be him. So I had to dedicate myself. That's my second D, dedication. And then my third D is discipline. My discipline was doing what others would normally do. Bro, during the off season when I trained, I always started in April, no matter the first week of April, no matter when the season ended. I always started the first week of April. Prior to that, whenever the season ended, whatever was in December or January, I gave myself 2 months or whatever it was in between to just decompress, eat what I wanted to eat, party, sleep, whatever it was. But once April hit, I got back on my program. The discipline came into play. Once April hit, from April to training camp and to the rest for 6 to 7 months, I disciplined myself to eat healthy, do all the necessary things to take care of my body. I would go out, like I was still, before training camp started, I would be in Atlanta hanging out with my people. I would have pool parties at the house. I would eat no fried foods. I wouldn't drink any alcohol. I wasn't a big drinker. That's that discipline. I disciplined myself because I realized once I got with my personal trainer, I saw what we did during the offseason to help me become a better receiver. I saw the results of it, and I came fascinated. Oh my gosh, I'm talking about sometimes I couldn't sleep. Sometimes I would be in the club thinking about running routes, thinking about the prior the season before, routes that I ran wrong, passes that I dropped. I'm in the club with all this chaos, but that's how focused I was. I was thinking about the next season, trying to be a better version of myself. And so Jerry Rice, I mean, he did it for me. Before I even knew who he was, I had no idea that I would, leave UT Chattanooga or play even beyond the collegiate level and make it into the pros for 15 years and ultimately become the Hall of Famer that I am today.
Terrell, for everyone who watches this show, we allow them to submit questions. We got a number of them for you on social media. The first one comes from Twitter. This person asks, what sport did you perform best while you were in high school?
Basketball. I was a basketball player. Just as I alluded to toward the end there, I didn't think I was going to play beyond the collegiate level in football. When I left high school, I wasn't highly recruited. I wasn't a 4 or 5 star recruit. When I got to UT Chattanooga, had no idea what my career was going to be there. My second year, my sophomore year, I ended up playing basketball, walked on the basketball team, and I ended up playing the next 3 years from my sophomore year to my senior year. So basketball has always been my love, been my passion. And I had a passion, like I said, with the pursuit of perfection. We all try to be perfect in what we do. But when you talk about some of the greats that have played in their respective sports, and namely, like I said, we're in the season of where the basketball playoffs are now. You think about LeBron in his 17th year, how he's striving for greatness, to be doing what he's doing at his age, at the number of years that he's been playing. Again, I know what he's done for his body. A lot of that money that he's made an investment to do some of the things that we're witnessing now. And those are some of the things that I did too within my career. When you think about Kobe Bryant, to play 20 years with one organization, you look at his first 10 years and his last 10 years, they damn near mirror each other. But that shows you, and I've talked about it, his pursuit of perfection, his pursuit of greatness. It's a relentless pursuit of that. That's what I did behind the scenes before we had social media to really share all the content. Bro, I was doing all of that.
This one comes from Twitter. It says, are you doing any reality TV again?
Nothing on the horizon. I am working on a documentary with the Players Tribune. That should be, we're finalizing really kind of the language, the verbiage, the contract with that. But again, like some of what we've talked about here today, to get in some of the intimate details of what I experienced in San Francisco with certain individuals. I have a number of coaches, players that have already agreed to be a part of the documentary. So it'll shed light really on who I am. As I said before, like I said, people can have a perception, but I got some people that have been in my corner on every team from day one. That's going to shed light on some of my experience. And I think people will have a different perception of me. And it's not for me to change their perception, but as I've some people have mentioned too, and I've said this all along when I've even tried to really kind of defend myself or give some rebuttal of some of the things that have happened. My perception isn't their reality, your reality.
This one from Facebook. It says, I'm curious, T.O., about your relationship with your father now. And I remember
it's pretty much the same. I know a lot of people are aware I did the show Fix My Life with Iyanla Van Zant on the OWN network, and that was, I think it was probably needed. It was a step, I guess, in a direction, I guess, initiated by the network to try to address, kind of who I was as a person, what made me click, what made me tick, what would be some of the responses or cause of some of the actions that some people, I guess, seem a little bit volatile or immature or what have you. But I didn't have a father figure in the household. I didn't know my dad until I was preteen. And I think, people that have followed my career, I've touched on it a bit. My dad lived right across the street from me. I lived with my grandmother, didn't know it. But yeah, we did that show. Like I said, we addressed some things. It was emotional for, I think, all of us. I got some answers out of some questions that I probably wanted to ask over the years, but I didn't. But at the request of Iyanla, I asked some of those questions, and she asked those of my mom and dad at the same time. And just being a part of that show and really hearing both of them, kind of explain and share what they were thinking or what was going on at the time, shed light on, really who I am and who they are. So I don't hold any resentment or anything like that. I'm very cordial with my dad when I see him, but the relationship, it hasn't grown any stronger. There's no stronger bond since that show since then, but that's not to say that it's a bad thing. Sometimes, things are what they are.
This one comes from Twitter. It says, when was the last time you've spoken to Donovan McNabb, and what did you guys talk about?
I can't remember exactly what it was, but we had talked about this whole little thing before, and we tried to just squash it, and I had seen him out and everything was cool. We've run into each other, Super Bowls, and I think maybe the last time that we saw each other where I thought things were cool, like we both, obviously he lives in Arizona. Larry Fitzgerald does his charity softball game every year. I think they're in April. And I've attended that thing probably like for 7 straight years or so or longer. And obviously he plays softball. He lives there in Arizona, and we've competed against each other. So again, that was, I think, the last encounter that I think I had with him prior to, again, all this, the things that have resurfaced when he did the interview.
This one comes from Facebook. It said, I read in GQ where you talked about you made over $80 million in your career and lost nearly all of it from a lot of things, from mismanagement, from people who stole from you. So what advice do you give to current players?
My advice, honestly, would be to really, I guess you can take some classes, take some courses if you don't know anything about managing money. But obviously you have to find, what's so tough is that guys come into the league and you don't know much about managing your portfolio or taxes and things of that nature. You really kind of ideally want to do and know one thing, and that's to play football. Most of the time you have agents that handle your contracts, and then if you're not a guy or player that comes from some financial background or have grew up in a household where you're financially aware of how to handle money, have a mom and dad that has basically taught you how to do those things, then it's going to be tough. Then you're going to hire somebody to do that. And that's what happens, that we as athletes, we trust, number one, our agents, and we trust the referrals or the recommendations of our agents that we're going to be taken care of. And most of these agents, they do a poor job of doing that. I became a victim of that because, like I said, you listen to these guys. They're telling you, they talk to your parents, mom and dad, or maybe sometimes usually just one parent. Most of us as Black athletes, we come from single parent households, and we hire these people to manage and take care of our business affairs. And if you're not if you don't have a business mindset or acumen, then you can be easily taken advantage of. And if you don't take the necessary time out yourself to vet or basically take time out to make sure your financial advisors are doing what they're supposed to be doing, then you're setting yourself up for failure. So if my story can be any inspiration or motivation or encouragement for guys to take different approaches and take it upon themselves to really be mindful of the money that they're making sure these agents or these financial advisors are doing what they're supposed to be doing, then so be it. But I don't feel bad at all. I mean, it happens. I'm not the first. Definitely, probably not going to be the last. But if I could offer any advice, is just be on top of your finances. Get another set of eyes to monitor the people that's monitoring your funds.
Terrell Owens, we come to the last segment of this show. We call it The Last Stand. I'm asking you a series of questions. You just give me the first thing, not the second, that comes to your mind. You ready?
Right.
First thing that comes to your mind, T.O., when I say the name Donovan McNabb.
I'd say two-faced.
Which team did T.O. enjoy playing for the most?
Ooh, probably Philly.
Best quarterback you played with?
Man, that's tough. That's tough.
Take a stand,
I say Tony Romo.
Okay.
I wanted to say Ryan Fitzpatrick, and I say that because when you think about the Buffalo Bills, that's and really the climate in which we play, especially playing in Buffalo where the weather is not so weather friendly for a receiver. Playing with Ryan Fitzpatrick coming in and filling in for a young quarterback and Trent Everett replacing him. I was able to really play like everybody expected me to play once he became the quarterback. So Ryan Fitzpatrick, I've said this a couple of times. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks that I played with.
The worst quarterback you played with?
Worst? Worst. Oh my gosh.
Had to be a guy where you said, man.
That's tough. Worst. Man. I wouldn't put of the quarterbacks that I played, I wouldn't put them in the worst category. I wouldn't say that I played, like, I wouldn't put them in the worst category. They may not have played to their capabilities a lot of times,
Okay.
but I wouldn't put them in the worst category.
Who was the quarterback that didn't play to his capabilities?
I would say Donovan. I think he had a lot of potential. I think everybody realizes that, and especially when he left from Philly and went to Washington. I think that was a telltale sign that, again, you just can't rely on just athletic ability. And again, we all, as we get older, and I know a lot of guys, especially at the quarterback position, you want to extend your career. And it's just you're not going to just be the quarterback because of your name. Again, the quarterback at the thing, I think it was the coach at the time was Shanahan. Mm-hmm. So again, when you talk about a coach, Super Bowl caliber coach in Shanahan, and he's able to watch and assess the talent on an everyday basis, clearly he saw that his skill set, his talent wasn't worthy enough to extend and be the starting quarterback of the Washington Redskins. Donovan has a lot of ability. I've had a number of conversations about as to why probably he why he won't be a Hall of Famer. But from what I saw is that I felt like he didn't take the quarterback position seriously as to really take his talents to another level. When you talk about some of the great quarterbacks, elite quarterbacks that are I feel like there are leaps and bounds better than him, the Peyton Mannings, the Drew Breeses, the Tom Brady's. It's accuracy. It's not just arm strength. I mean, because you look at some of the guys that I just mentioned, their arms aren't as strong as Donovan. It's all about how you play the game, quarterback decision making, and it's ball placement. I think that's what separates those guys and Donovan, and where he could have been had he worked on those details, footwork, and things of that nature of his game.
Terrell, I've certainly enjoyed this, man. You've been generous with your time. Look, that's what we like to do here on The Last Stand, give you the biggest names in sports and entertainment. And it doesn't get any bigger than T.O. when you talk about the NFL. So I appreciate you.
I appreciate it.